The following was recorded on July 21st, 2025. Please keep in mind laws, guidelines, and processes may change over time. This is the Italian Citizenship Podcast, hosted by Marco Permunian and Rafael Di Furia. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Italian Citizenship Podcast, presented by Italiancitizenship.com. Of course, we are back at it again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian, and I am Rafael Di Furia. And recently, with all of the changes to Italian citizenship by descent, there's been a lot of confusion about who's eligible, who's not eligible, why are you eligible, why are you not eligible. And in this episode, we wanted to give more of an overview of what things might be looking like for those individuals who are trying to determine whether they are still or if they're not currently eligible for Italian citizenship by descent. So Marco, could you tell us a little bit more about what eligibility for Italian citizenship by descent is looking like now in mid-2025?
As we mentioned in other videos, the Italian government issued on March the 28th an emergency decree which altered the eligibility rules to qualify for Italian citizenship by descent. According to the government, in response to a large number of individuals who potentially could qualify for citizenship by descent, they decided to tighten the rules to qualify for citizenship by descent. And what was decided on March the 28th was that only individuals who had an Italian-born parent or grandparent could qualify for citizenship by descent. So they decided retroactively, and we talked extensively in other episodes why the reform was unjust and retroactive and potentially unconstitutional, but they decided to put a limit to the number of generations that one could use to claim Italian citizenship by descent. Now, the Tajani emergency decree was effective immediately, so the rules changed immediately, and only those who were able to submit the application prior to the Tajani decree were going to be subject to the old rules, whereas those individuals who were going to submit the application after the new rules went into effect were going to be subject to the new rules. Now, the Tajani decree, as I mentioned, was effective immediately. However, it needed the parliament to confirm it or review it or potentially not confirm it within 60 days from the date of its issuance. So we witnessed a discussion in the parliament regarding the provisions in the Tajani decree, and there were many proposals, many proposed amendments that were made in that time period to try to change the provisions that were included by the government in the emergency decree that I just mentioned. Now, unfortunately, the Tajani decree was confirmed. There were some amendments, but the final text was confirming the generational limit that was decided by the government. So the parliament did confirm that from now on there will be a generational limit, but they altered the text of the decree, and they basically included a provision that mentioned that you could only qualify for citizenship by descent if your Italian parent or grandparent was exclusively an Italian citizen at the time of their death, or if living, that they are exclusively Italian citizens. So in short, there was a difference between the initial text of the Tajani decree, which referenced two generations and the need for an Italian parent or grandparent to be born in Italy, and the law that converted the decree after the parliament reviewed it, which basically stated that the parent or grandparent that you're using to apply for citizenship by descent needed to be exclusively an Italian citizen. That was due primarily to concerns from some members of the parliament regarding the reference to the parent or grandparent that were born in Italy, which was initially included in the Tajani decree, which, according to these members of the parliament, was going too much into the direction of the use solely because, like I said, it was making reference to a parent or grandparent who was born in Italy. But the parliament felt that they wanted to maintain rules that have more to do with jure sanguinis and the transfer of citizenship between one generation and the other by right of blood. And therefore, in the law of conversion of the decree, the rules basically made reference to the fact that the parent or the grandparent were exclusively Italian citizens at the time of their death, or if they're living, that they are exclusively Italian citizens. Now, with all of that being said, in an attempt to clarify the eligibility rules, the Italian Ministry of Interior released a circolare, otherwise known as memo or directive, addressed to consulates and municipalities, with which basically they told consulates and municipalities how to interpret the law, the final law that converted the Tajani Decree. And in this circolare, the ministry indicated that in order to qualify for Italian citizenship by descent, you needed to have a parent or grandparent that was exclusively an Italian citizen at the time in which the applicant was born. Now, of course, this is again different from what the Tajani Decree initially stated and from what the law of conversion of the Tajani Decree indicated when the Tajani Decree was converted into law. And therefore, while the Ministry of Interior was trying to clarify this situation, they caused more confusion. Now, as we mentioned in one of the latest episodes of Ask the Italian Lawyer, an Italian circolare is only binding for the public administrations, so it cannot be compared to a regular law, and therefore it's not directly binding for citizens or any individual. It's just binding for, in this case, consulates and municipalities, and it's also not binding for the Italian courts. So a circolare cannot force a judge to take a decision based on the circolare itself.
Well, Marco, thank you so much for going over general eligibility in 2025. And just regarding those maybe who would not be eligible for citizenship now under these current rules, do they have any way to be able to pursue Italian citizenship? Are there any ways to challenge what has happened? Are there any workarounds for these new rules?
Of course, the Tajani Decree was issued very quickly and without prior announcement. So a lot of individuals who were in the process of preparing to apply for Italian citizenship by descent were caught off guard. And of course, a lot of individuals who qualified for citizenship by descent prior to the March change were hoping to claim citizenship through a more distant ancestor, like a great-grandparent. And while the law of conversion of the Tajani Decree did include a provision that will allow those individuals who were able to book an appointment to apply for citizenship through a consulate or municipality prior to March 28 to use the old rules, we believe that there are ways for also other individuals that were in the process of collecting their documents to be able to apply for citizenship by using the old rules. And as I mentioned in other videos, why should only those lucky individuals who were able to make an appointment at the consulate, because making an appointment was either highly difficult or nearly impossible or extremely challenging. So why should only those who were lucky enough to get an appointment be allowed to apply for citizenship in the future and use the old rules? And all of the other individuals who were actively looking for an appointment but were never able to secure one, why should they not be allowed to apply for citizenship by descent by using the old rules? Because these individuals were in good faith waiting for the consulate to release appointments, or they were constantly looking for an appointment, or they were on a waiting list, maybe with 9,000 people. So I think it's only fair that these individuals should also be grandfathered in and be allowed to use the old rules. And of course, the only recourse that these individuals have is to petition the court, which is something that we highly encourage at ICA, because we do believe that the Italian court system should allow these individuals who can prove that they had been waiting for an appointment for long enough to be able to apply for citizenship through the courts and use the old rules. And of course, when we petition the courts for our clients, we also include other arguments that we believe support their cases. So not only the fact that the plaintiff was waiting for an appointment, but also the fact that the law is clearly unconstitutional and clearly retroactive because it is affecting individuals who were born prior to the issuance of the new law. So we believe that a judge should be fair enough to clarify that somebody who was born prior to the law changing should be able to apply for citizenship and use the old rules, as opposed to what the government wanted to accomplish with the Tajani Decree, because they did explicitly mention in the Tajani Decree that a lot of individuals of Italian descent had a right to apply for citizenship by descent since birth, and sometimes they didn't exercise their right for decades. But that is not true, especially for those individuals who were in the process of submitting their application, especially for those who were waiting for an appointment or those who were just unable to get through the consulate. So those individuals should be grandfathered in. But we at ICA believe that also those individuals who were simply born prior to the Tajani Decree should be able to use the old rules, because it's not fair. It's unjust that the government changes the rules for people who had a right since birth to claim Italian citizenship by descent. Now we're hoping that this will be addressed by the Constitutional Court in a future hearing.
Well, thank you, Marco. And since you brought up the Constitutional Courts, I'm curious because there was recently a hearing, which is currently in proceedings, but there is also going to be another court case coming up that will be heard by the Constitutional Court. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about those, and also if those have any potential to help individuals who maybe aren't currently eligible for Italian citizenship by descent?
The constitutionality of citizenship by descent had been called into question last year, and there was a hearing on June the 24th regarding that process that was initiated again last year, so prior to the Tajani Decree. And in fact, the hearing at the Constitutional Court that took place on June the 24th was around the old laws that are technically speaking no longer in place, unless, of course, you are somebody who already submitted their application or you have an appointment with an Italian consulate scheduled for the future. During the hearing of June the 24th, the Tajani Decree also came up, and the lawyers that were present at the hearing also believed that the Tajani Decree was against the Italian Constitution and brought it up. And so the Italian Constitutional Court may or may not decide anything regarding the Tajani Decree as a result of that hearing. However, there was a second court case that was presented to the Constitutional Court, and that was regarding the Tajani Decree, so the new rules. And we are waiting for the Constitutional Court to set a hearing to decide whether the Tajani Decree and the law that converted the Tajani Decree are compliant with the Italian Constitution or not. And of course, should the Constitutional Court decide that one or more provisions of the Tajani Decree are not compliant with the Italian Constitution, that will definitely help individuals to qualify for Italian citizenship by descent. But that doesn't mean that individuals should stop presenting their cases in the civil courts for two reasons. First of all, because only by presenting your case at an Italian court, you can request, or the judge can request, that the Constitutional Court reviews the current laws that regulate citizenship by descent. And of course, the more individuals request that the Constitutional Court reviews these new laws, the more likely it is that the Constitutional Court will take action. And of course, there's also another reason that has to do with the fact that any judge in Italy can interpret the law in their own way. So it's possible that a judge will have a slightly different interpretation of the law that will allow you to qualify, even if the consulates or their websites say that you don't, especially because there is some confusion right now regarding the eligibility criteria. And there is, like I mentioned, a circolare, which was meant to clarify the situation, but didn't really clarify the situation. And therefore, we believe that the Italian court system is the right place right now where to present a citizenship case and request that your case is judged by a judge under the most favorable rules, or that your case is judged under the old rules, because for a variety of reasons, according to the arguments that you make in court, you believe that your case should have been already accepted by an Italian consulate, and you couldn't present your case in time before the law changed through no fault of your own, because, for example, there were no appointments available, because you were in the queue, or because you have, for example, a 1948 case that you were about to present in the courts, and you had already taken substantial steps in the process of presenting your 1948 case through the Italian court system.
Well, thank you, Marco. And with all of what's going on right now, it's definitely very confusing. And I'm sure there may be people listening in who are still unsure whether they may be eligible or not. And of course, at this point in time, are people able to get in contact with you and your team to determine whether they in fact are eligible or not for Italian citizenship by descent?
Yes, we at Italian Citizenship Assistance offer a free eligibility assessment to those who are interested in understanding if they qualify for Italian citizenship by descent, especially given the constant changes that we have seen in the past few months. Each and every single eligibility assessment is directly supervised by one of my attorneys in my firm or by myself to ensure that we provide individuals who are interested in claiming citizenship under the new rules or under the old rules, meaning to be able to be grandfathered in some ways, the best possible options to go forward and proceed with their applications for Italian citizenship by descent. And of course, any current client of ICA is welcome to email me directly at marco@italiancitizenshipassistance.com to receive clarifications regarding their specific set of circumstances and the best path forward.
Well, thank you so much, Marco. And of course, this has been another episode of the Italian Citizenship Podcast, presented by ItaliancitizenshipAssistance.com. Of course, if you're interested in more like this about Italian citizenship, be sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel. But of course, if you are subscribed to this YouTube channel, that doesn't mean you are automatically subscribed also to Ask the Italian Lawyer, as well as the Italian Real Estate Podcast, where we go even further into topics that have to do with Italian citizenship, Italian laws, and making Italy your home. Of course, be sure that you're subscribed also to the audio-only versions of each of these podcasts. And if you are interested in more about life abroad and living abroad from the perspective of a dual citizen expat, be sure to come over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia, or you can search for Not Your Average Globetrotter. But of course, again, we have been here with Italian attorney Marco Permunian from ItaliancitizenshipAssistance.com. I'm Rafael Di Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you.